Good morning. I'm Julie Erickson, a learning specialist with TIE, Technology and Innovation in Education. And today we're going to talk about building learner empowerment with virtual choice boards. All the resources for everything that we're going to talk about today are at bit.ly/ASBSD20. So let's get started. So one of the things we're going to look at is why would you use choice boards? What do choice boards provide? So choice boards provide a number of different things that give students ownership and the engagement um, with what they're learning, because you've added in that choice component. So let's go ahead and look at some different examples. Choice boards can incorporate technology and non-technology activities. And so as we pop in and look at this choice board, this is created by Dr. Catlin Tucker, and she has put together a number of different options of things to do away from the computer. And so you can talk about, you know, it's all fun and games. And so you're going to play a board game. You're doing Chopped Home Edition. You're choosing a recipe. And you'll notice in all of the instructions, it says, document the process, create a new board game, or design a board game, a cover. And so you have, she's giving you an activity to do within each of the choices. And then she has that reflect and share. And on this choice board, there isn't the how you're going to reflect and share, but that is most likely in another document or as part of the process for using her choice boards. One of my favorite things is choice boards can allow students to work at their own pace. So choice can be time. And so here's a really great seesaw created by Melissa Hayes out of from South Dakota. And she uses this in seesaw with her younger students. And one of the things you see here is they have a pacing guide. And so they'll have activities for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but they don't necessarily, I mean, if I sat down and did them all at once, that wouldn't be a problem. Or if I did Monday and Tuesday, that wouldn't be a problem. And so that is one of the really nice things here is you have that choice. The other thing that we see is she's added in extras. And so pick two, but there's no limit there to say that they can't pick more if they don't want to. So that provides that students who want more work have the options. The same learning goals requiring the use of key concept and skills. And so different ways to show your learning. And so as we're looking at this, you can go in and, excuse me, you can go in and check out this sample of a 5th grade choice board, math choice board. And you'll see that we're using a deck of cards. And so that's super easy. And then you have the variety of ways that we can meet the different standards. Hyperdocs are a way to incorporate not only choice, but also an entire lesson. So Hyperdocs generally cover like the 5 E's and go through and include the whole lesson. And so this is a really great way to not only add pace, but also be able to add in the choice. And so this is the build to law process. And so if we go in, here's our hook. We're going to listen to some podcasts. And so we've got these podcasts, and then we're going to note a takeaway from each podcast. Then we're going to look at the ways we can explore. And so you're looking at recording at least 2 things you learned from each resource in your findings. Here we have the explain. This is many times where the teacher this will be something we do with the teacher. And so in this situation, the teacher's made a video and put it on Edpuzzle. And that is how it is being shared. And then as we go on, we have the apply. And so show what you know. Here we could definitely put in more choice if we wanted to. So you could say, you know, create a Quizlet, or create a sketch notes of the process, or, you know, or you could give lots of different options there. And then finally, the extend. Are you all done? Well, let's extend your learning. So this is something that's very easy to customize. It's also really easy to modify and change depending on the circumstances. And so that's a Hyperdoc, and that pulls through. We're looking at the objectives of what we want to learn. It's not just a variety of tasks. And then we've also looked at, you know, ways that we can provide that enrichment and supplemental activities. The extend in the Hyperdoc is one of those. So all of this is fine and good, but I think the biggest thing is the social emotional learning and differentiation that occurs naturally by incorporating choice. When we incorporate choice, we are really encouraging our students to start to make decisions. And that then creates that ownership and intrinsic motivation. And so if we think about decision making, students are making decisions on the work that they're going to do. They're getting to make decisions on how fast they do it. They're getting to make decisions on when they do it. They are starting to have that ownership and of the project versus or the activity versus typical, where, you know, it's like you will do this worksheet today, and there's no voice in the matter. Another thing that I really, you know, it's not something that I really thought about, but then when you do think about it, you see it. There's a lot of competitiveness in the classroom because we're all doing the same thing, and it's well, I can do it faster, I can do it better, I can do it funnier. You know, you've got all of that. If students are not each doing the exact same thing, now there's going to be more ability to be able to focus on my own work and focus on, you know, how that we are, you know, everybody has differences, and be able to build that awareness rather than everybody does the same thing and I'm going to make my I'm gonna be the one who's always done first. So helping, adding the choice will add in that social awareness. And then finally, grit. And we talk a lot about grit and that ability to stick with it. When we allow students to have choice, you know, that along with the ownership and the intrinsic motivation, it gives them that ability to, you know, tackle something, figure it out. Um, this is their project. It's not something that they are doing for me, the teacher. They're doing something that they are invested in. And so the social emotional learning that goes along with implementing choice is really huge. And that is where you're going to see that student empowerment really, really shine through. Well, what does choice look like? Well, we've looked at a number of different samples, and when you think about choice, you can think about, you know, really two things is a choice. And so a choice board can be very simple. It can be a few choices. It can be something that you reuse over and over again. Maybe it's a show what you know, and so the students can choose how they want to show what they know. It can also get very complex, and we can have points and menus, and students need to, you know, earn X number of points from a menu to be able to consider it done. And then there's also options. In this novel book study by Casey Bell does a really nice example of showing us how the options can work. And so she's doing a must do, and then the choice, the can do. So she, in her instructions, and they're very clear, she says, start with number 5 and then make 2 other choices to make your tic-tac-toe. So when we're looking at this, we have everybody's going to do number 5. Write a 1-paragraph summary, share your slide deck, good to go. Then she says, make 2 other choices to make your tic-tac-toe. And so at this point, you can make 2 other choices to be able to complete the assignment. And she's very explicit in 5 that you're going to add the links to your other 2 projects on the collaborative slide deck that you're creating. Is this something you think that she just dumped on the kids one day and they're just doing this? Or do you think like they've probably used collaborative slides before? So they're going to know how collaborative slides work. And then also all of these activities have the ability to have a link. And so she's going to have explained how do you add a link to a project. So how do you implement choice? Well, it's a process because students are so used to being told what to do and having very little choice in the matter. It can be hard for them to make choices. It's also a lot on the teacher side to come up with lots of choices. And so we have to remember that a choice is 2 things. And so when we're offering choice, it doesn't have to be this whole long list of things that we can do. It can be just 2 things. Another thing to keep in mind is when there can be times where everybody does something, and that would be, when they learn how to do it, and so when you're learning a new tool, when you're learning a new game, when you're wanting to go through the process of an activity, that can be something that everybody does together before it becomes a choice. And so I think about it like teaching centers. Everybody comes and we see how a center works, and everybody does the same center. But then once we know that, then we can go ahead and provide more flexibility, and not everybody needs to do the same thing at the same time. And then the other thing that you'll want to consider is allowing for student voice. And this is that, do you have a better idea for, turning in the show your work for this project? And this is something that can be really hard because your student may come in with an idea that is, you have no experience in. They want to make a podcast and you know nothing about podcasts. Well, in that situation, you're going to have to say, that's interesting. I would like that. And but I can't help you. And so if you get stuck, what are you going to do? And have the students do that troubleshooting and support, because you don't need to know everything. You just need to say, here's the rubric, here's the expectations that your project is going to cover when you show your learning, and how you do that, can totally depend on what you want to do. I've really seen this even in the classes that I teach with adults. I have people in different situations and they'll say, well, I'm not in the classroom, but I'm an administrator or I work in a museum. Can I make a class for that? And it's like, well, of course. It doesn't make sense for you to make a class to how to teach math if you're not going to be teaching math. And so this is where when you can allow your students to have that voice and you'll provide them and give them expectations. It's like, if you want to do something different than the choices, you need to write it up and tell me what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and I need to approve it before you do that. So implementing choice, start small, definitely start small, and do some scaffolding, and it can really change how your classroom looks, mainly because, especially once you get to that student voice, you are really, really creating that ownership and really building on that social emotional learning component. So I'm an example girl, and I like to see lots of examples to get ideas and inspiration. And so we have a curated collection of choice boards here in this Wakelet. So this is just a hodgepodge of choice boards for lots of different content areas, lots of different topics. And so, and this is one of my favorites. It's a virtual field trip. And so we have the San Diego Zoo. This is for Seesaw. So this is the entire Seesaw activity. And it even goes as far as having a, permission slip associated with it. But then we can go back and we can look at the San Diego Zoo Hyperdoc field trip. And this is more of we have all of the resources where we can watch the animal and we can learn more about the animal. And then in the center of the page, we have our instructions. And so you're going to click on the links, you're going to choose the animal, you're going to note 4 or 5 new facts, and then finally, you're going to create a 1-slide presentation that includes 4 or 5 facts about your animal. And so this is, one of those things that you as a teacher can see how it is customized across the board. As we scroll on down, this is another one of my favorite ones, and this is from Lindsay, California, and the art teacher threw out all of these choices for art. And I love it. She gave the students the ability to pick an art each so when you click on the box, you get more instructions and examples. She wants you to create a project per week. The students posted their projects in a Padlet gallery, and then here's what I really like. And she's like, questions. She's provided a fact, and then we can talk during office hours, or you can email. And so this is something that it really gives students that opportunity to do as many or as few. I mean, she has expectations of 1 project a week, but she says 1 plus. And so if I'm loving the art, I can continue to do more. So those are just some examples of different choice boards and menus that you can utilize. So now that we've looked at some different examples, how can we implement choice in our classrooms? So lots of different formats, and I provided resources for all of them. So if you're looking at choice boards, here we can pop on in and look at adding choice. And so here, all of them are structured the same way, and we can go through, and you're going to have a getting started. And so this is creating a choice board is a step-by-step guide on how to do that. And it starts out with a choice board is just a table. And so you're able to utilize these step-by-step guides. Then as we scroll on down, you're going to see some samples and some ideas and how to better manage choice boards. And then finally, we get down to the create. And where possible, we've provided you with samples that you can actually just click on and copy. And so, like, here's the editable choice boards that you can just click and copy and go. Menus are something that we haven't spent a ton of time on, but menus are a ramped up version of choice boards that essentially, I mean, if you think of them like a menu item, they are options for creating. Let's go in and look at an example here by Josh Schmidt. Let's see if I can find one. Those are choice boards. So a menu item is going to give you like a appetizer, and this is more of a choice board type activity. But menu items are going to give you, that we can, an appetizer, an entree. You have the options for creating different choices, but also having different levels of learning. I actually see menu items looking a lot like a hyperdoc because you can have that, practice, you can have the entree, which is the final project, you can have the dessert, which is the show what you know or demonstrate your mastery. And so the menu items are really a choice board with a little bit more structure. So we've jumped in and looked at some hyperdocs with that creating a law sample. But when we come here, we can dive in further on hyperdocs in terms of what they are and a little video about them. If we're looking at hyperdocs, they typically give students that opportunity to engage, explore, explain, apply, share, reflect, and extend. And so you can, pull that together and have that opportunity. In this situation, one of my favorite examples is of this English teacher, who turned a worksheet. And so this is just a standalone worksheet where students read an article and answer some questions. She turns it into an interactive hyperdoc. And in this interactive hyperdoc, she's not only made it collaborative, she's also provided some choice. So here we have groups of 4 where they are answering what kind of people are heroes. And then as we scroll on down, each learner needs to read one of the articles and then answer some questions about it. So we're doing a jigsaw, and we're doing the jigsaw by everybody's answering the same questions here. Then as we scroll on down, students answer another question using information from their discussion from the jigsaw that they had. And each of them answers who was the most heroic. So as we keep on going, then she talks about how to turn it in. And so it's like, this is so amazing to me that we've gone from something that was handed out as a basic worksheet is now a collaborative document where students are reading different articles and combining their knowledge. And this can be something that can be done synchronously. It can be done asynchronously. And so you have options. You can say this, everybody needs to have the article and the questions answered by Thursday. And then on Friday during office hours or during our live meeting, we are going to go into breakout rooms and talk about are reflections before you finish the project. And so you have so many different options to make this be an interactive activity. And then a couple more resources that you have. Symbaloo is a great resource for adding choice because it's very visual, and so you can utilize Symbaloo for, so like here's a sample. You can utilize Symbaloo, like here's book trailer resources. And so here, if I was to assign a book trailer, the students would have, they're making a book trailer, but here are all the resources you can use to make that book trailer. So not only are you able to find music and pictures and video clips, you also have the editors. And so you have some different options here, which is really great. So the Symbaloo can be a great way to present those options for choice. They're making the book trailer. Here's some tools. Do you need to know how to use them all? No. I mean, you can say, I know how to use Screencastify, but the others, they're great resources. They're free. I don't know how to use them, and that's okay. Demonstrating understanding is one of my favorites. Harrisburg Elementary does apps to show my learning. And so what this means is they are doing in their classroom, they have a list of apps to show their learning. And they, the students don't start out with this list, but the students learn a new tool regularly. So everybody learns a tool, everybody makes something with Book Creator, everybody makes something with Keynote, but once they know that tool, then that can be one of the apps to show their learning. And so when we talk about, a choice is two things, when we start out, we may not, we may only have the two things, but this is really awesome to be able to say in my, in my lessons to, here's your assignment now. Use one of the apps to show your learning. And so the students have that capability of making that decision of how they want to demonstrate their learning. And then finally, low tech. And so we started out looking at that low tech sample by Dr. Catlin Tucker. And now I just want to kind of come back around and talk a little bit more about, adding that low tech. And so just because we may be doing a lot of online learning, it doesn't mean that we can't add choice through an offline learning. And it also doesn't mean that, we have to think about, well, not everybody has X, Y, or Z. Um, one of the activities in Catlin's sample was a scavenger hunt. Creating a scavenger hunt. You can create a scavenger hunt in your car. You can create a scavenger hunt in your yard. You can create a scavenger hunt in your bedroom. You can create a scavenger hunt anywhere. I mean, and so it's not like you need to have a particular item or resource to be able to do that. And so being able to add in that low tech is a really important consideration. All right, so we've looked at a ton of different resources for creating choice and building empowerment in your classroom with choice boards. And so your resources for today are all at bit.ly/ASBSD20. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Have a great conference, and I look forward to working with you in the future.